Hello, everyone. We are back here with the Breaking the Guard podcast. I am Robert Drysdale with my good friend and co-host David Avalan. We have a very special guest here, IBJJF Black Belt World Champion and overall BJJ stud, Mahamed Aly. Mahamed, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on here, Mahamed. It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you was at the ADCC.
Yep.
Yeah, it was you had some great matches out there. I think one of the better matches was even with Tim, your own teammate.
Oh my God, that was traumatizing, man. Sad.
Yeah, it's no one ever likes to fight a teammate, but ADCC does that intentionally. For those of you who don't know that, like they make you guys fight early on, right? What they don't want is anyone closing the bracket. They want to make sure that the final is a war. So they want to limit the chance of teammates fighting each other in the final, which is understandable. I get it, but I've always hated fighting teammates, man. Like that's to me, that's never something fun.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when we were about to fight, I told him, man, please, if you take my back, you get your points and you get out of that. I don't want you on the pictures on my back. And we fight, we win, we lose, that's cool. We train every day, we go hard every day. But I think I wasn't ready, man. That thing was a lot of that was intense because the first thing he did was he jumped on a guillotine, and then I was like, damn, man, he's really trying to kill me, I'm not used to that, so it was kind of hard for me to to process that thing.
And, Mohammed, one thing we noticed, and just since we're on the ADCC topic, one thing that we notice is, I think that over the years, there's been an increase on the importance of wrestling for ADCC, right? We're seeing more and more of it. In some ways, it almost resembles a wrestling match and obviously less sophisticated, but it's becoming more and more like wrestling. The other day, I saw an NCAA match from 1937 in wrestling. And I was shocked to see how much it actually looked like. 'Cause the rules were different, but it looked a lot like ADCC to me. So I was wondering, what are your thoughts? And do you agree that it's become more wrestling oriented? And what's the importance of wrestling for the state of the sport at the moment?
Yeah, I don't actually think that ADCC is a jiu-jitsu tournament, And a lot of people, when they tell me, oh, is that a jiu-jitsu tournament? I was like, man, it's not, because jiu-jitsu is the only martial arts that you can be comfortable on your back, and when a tournament tell you that you cannot pull guard, that means it's not jiu-jitsu, even though you can still win from the doing guard and stuff, especially for heavier guys. I wouldn't consider that a jiu-jitsu match, and I think, man, a lot of jiu-jitsu people are still behind when it comes to posture, wrestling, protecting, just grip fighting. A lot of people get so stressed out with grip fight, and I think that's a big advantage. Whoever trains a little more, they understand the grip fighting. The takedowns are not as good, especially because you can go out of bounds and everything. You have the referees kind of, doing their thing. But yeah, man, you are allowed to walk backwards, and that's the only difference, because in wrestling, if you walk backwards, you get somebody else's score. So, but man, I think for sure wrestling is a thing, especially when it goes to final rounds. Oh my God, wrestling is the thing, man.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, particularly the moving backwards, is kind of a big deal. I know in your match with Nick Rodriguez, there were a lot of takedowns that went out of bounds, and there was quite a few of them where you were on top at the end, but then they don't call points or anything. And to me, I know I harp on this every other episode, I think, of Robert, but I think out of bounds should be scored. If I push somebody out of bounds, point. Because you're right in the sense that you're allowed to walk backwards, so there's no penalty. And that means more people go out of bounds all the time. And particularly in heavyweight matches, there's a lot of out of bounds going on because of the wrestling emphasis. Nobody wants to be on their back. You get someone like Orlando Sanchez, you don't want that guy on top of you, so it becomes a wrestling match. And I think without penalties for going out of bounds, it just makes those matches much harder. I don't always see the winner of these matches as the better grappler. It was just, I don't know how to put it politely, but it's just like people who gamed the rules better, who knew when to run out of bounds versus when to stay in bounds.
Yeah, we would call that malandragem in Portuguese. It's funny because in some specific fights, you see that when they go out of bounds, they come back to the same position. Like the big example was Yuri versus Kainan, right? When Kainan kind of forces the situation outside, Yuri gets mad. But at the end of the day, Kainan was right. Like he was fighting under the rules. And then when we have fights like mine, when I was fighting Nick Rods, I end up on his back, the same exact situation. And then they come back, put it back in the middle, like both is standing up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of very tricky, especially because the ADCC referees, they're not really referees. They do other things. In 2 years, they're doing other things. And then one day they show up to ref a ADCC match. And somebody who's been training 2 years to do that thing, you have to accept whatever, so that's hard. You had a problem with that too, right? With Toquinho. Like it's very, very, very hard for you to train for ADCC. There smart people like Gordon and Nikki, but people who only train Nogi, I think they're very smart, man, because if your dream is to become a ADCC world champion and you train submissions only, and you use that gap that we have. We are the people who train for GI, for IBJJF rules. We have gaps in our game. So these people who trains just for no gi, they have a big advantage, man, and they very smart. I think they should do what they're doing.
So what's
Yeah.
your take on, because the one thing that I think that I don't know if this is what you meant by advantage, is that there's a body of techniques that are currently forbidden in most gi rule sets, or really all of them, namely the heel hooks. And I would agree with you that there's there's efficiency there, right? My opinion goes, wherever there's efficiency, that's where our martial arts should be leaning towards. So if it works, it should be assimilated, and that should be our guiding north. Like, we're always striving for improvement on the martial art. With that being said, it is a blind spot for a lot of competitors that aren't used to competing with that rule set. How much of an effect do you think that heel hooks have had in the last couple of ADCCs? Because I think it's real, but at the same time, I think it got blown a little out of proportion. I think that the rear naked choke is still the king of submissions, but like, no one notices the rear naked choke because they're so used to it, we take it for granted. But I think there's certainly been an increase on heel hooks at the ADCC level. And I wanted to hear you talk about that a little bit and how you feel about that, because most competitors are not familiar with it.
Yeah, I actually won a match doing a heel hook. My first match on the absolute was a heel hook win for me, and I also lost the absolute by a heel hook. It was a little weird because I was training with Cyborg and people of there, heavy people. So with heavy people, you basically have to get your knee free, keep turning towards your wherever your heel is going, you follow them, and then eventually you're gonna be out. And sometimes eventually you're gonna have a gap to scramble and take the back, right? But then I fought a very small guy who ends up like when you kick the leg, they come with you. So it's kind of different to defend from a heavy person and a little person. But as you say, I don't think it's that big of a deal if you understand. Of course, if you're fighting a guy who trains that for 12 months a year, it's gonna be hard. But that's regardless. That's any technique. If you fight like Philippe Andrew, like Kina, I always say, man, nobody ever gonna count me on triangles, right? And then Felipe, man, he did it, right? On the finals. Like Kina wasn't going easy. He was going hard. That was the final of the absolute or European championship. So that applies to anything. If you train Helogio choke and somebody, you're gonna caught them. So that's what I think about heel hooks too, man. It's just like another submission, but you have to put the time to feel and understand the feeling of the, like, where I supposed to worry about that, and when should I defend, before it gets too late. And with heel hooks, we don't know the limit. We actually don't have limit. When you notice, you already hurt. So that's why people are very afraid of that, and that's why I think it's forbidden on IBJJF.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous technique, but as we've seen, like being ignorant of it just makes you more like liable to get hurt by it. So you just have to have smart training partners and go slow with it, to learn and
Yeah,
practice it.
until you know how to defend and everything and how to apply too, because you
Yes,
can put a certain amount of pressure, and also if they don't know how to defend, you can release, right?
yes.
But you need to understand a little better before you can, play with that.
Yeah, I know. Like when training with heel hooks, I let go of more heel hooks than I finish just because of what you're saying. Sometimes people go the wrong way. I'm like, well, I don't want to break my toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? One thing you mentioned, and I think that's, and I feel like very strongly about this. It is just another position. The thing is, like, when something new comes about, we tend to put it on top of the hierarchy because we tend to see the world in hierarchies, right? The new outdoes the old. So, for example, when Bolos came about, that was the greatest sweep in the world. Like, everyone's Bolos. That's all my students wanted to do. They didn't want to learn anything else. And then I think it was BJJ Heroes released some statistics on jiu-jitsu, and it was statistics for like 2 or 3 years on all the black belt matches at the World Championship, and Bolos were like 4% of the sweeps. They were well below close guard and half guard. And what that suggests to me is that a lot of times the trend becomes like such a loud voice in the community, it takes over the whole story. When in fact, what's really going on is that much of what we consider to be basic and fundamental is still the overwhelming majority of the story. So, but anything that you put a lot of time and emphasis into, you're going to get good at, right? And people tend to put a lot of the focus on Berimbolo when they came out. I think the heel hook, it has something similar is happening, and I think that's why it's had such a dominant presence in the last 2-3 years. But I think that like you give it another 3-4 years, and it's going to be like just like the Berimbolo, everyone's going to learn how to shut it down, and it's not going to be a novelty anymore. It's just going to be part of the arsenal.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe a lot of energy too, man. Like sometimes when somebody gets you in a position or something, you feel their energy. Like this guy is not trying to tap me out; he's trying to break my foot, and you can feel that. You can sense that. It's just like a fighter can understand energy, and that's when you're gonna fear somebody or respect somebody because they're not trying to make you tap; they're trying to break your limbs. And as soon as you feel that, you feel a little insecure, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. They think only the techniques and the strength, but jiu-jitsu and sports are way more than that. And when you are focused, when you sacrifice a lot, when you go to the tournament and you know everything that you sacrifice for, you have a different kind of energy. And or the other fighter can sense that and can feel that. And nobody can explain that to anybody who never been there fighting. And I think heel hooks are something like that too. You kind of feel the energy from the person. Some heel hooks I'll turn, spin, 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 and get out eventually. But some other heel hooks, I'm gonna, oh my god, they trying to break my foot or my knee or whatever. So a lot of people, when they white belts or blue belts, they don't understand energy, and that's a big deal too, man. Like if somebody mount on you and they get the first grip strong enough, man, you're gonna know at that point that man is over. That just the energy that they put on the grip, even on the grip fighting, judo or anything, the energy that the person put on the submission on the grip gonna make the other fighter feel. And if the other fighter doesn't have the same energy, they're gonna feel like they're gonna respect or fear just that grip. And that's a big deal too. And a lot of people don't talk about that.
I know you're talking about the energy. When someone's trying to hurt you, you can tell. You
Like
know.
you can. I remember, man. 2000, I think 2013. I was there waiting for my match, and I watched. I saw Buchecha waiting to fight Rodolfo. Right, man. This guy was sitting down on the stairs by the pyramid. He was on the stairs. He was doing nothing, man. He was like head down, listen to his music, but you could almost see his energy, man. You could almost visualize, that the guy was about to go to war or something. And a lot of people, they never reach their potential. They're so worried about the techniques or strength or whatever. And when they get there, Mario Hayes once say something on his video was like, man, it doesn't matter if you train a lot, if you leave your heart at home. you know, and a lot of people don't understand that, you know, and I like to say always that to beginners because, man, that's a big deal too, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you speak I think that's what a lot of people also call as the aura, right? Like
Yeah.
when you think of that one fighter I could think of was Fedor Emelianenko. When he was the last emperor fighting in Pride, he had that aura when he was just smashing everybody. And when he took his time off because of the failed negotiations, they're trying to get M1 and the UFC to co-promote, I think it was too many years sitting on the shelf. And when he came back, he didn't have that same aura anymore, you know. And it goes both ways, like you're saying, because the competitors can detect that. And when they see that aura of confidence around you, it shakes you. You're like, oh, this guy is really sure of himself. Versus somebody who doesn't have that. Even though they look the same, they don't. You can feel the difference. You know,
You
You
can
know what?
feel,
Case
everybody
in
can
point,
feel that.
I just reminded that the Mayweather Pacquiao, when Pacquiao was just murdering everyone, Mayweather wouldn't fight him. And then after a while, like, you know, Pacquiao kind of lost his momentum there. He got knocked out, and then he fought him, you know. And I think that it's something, if you're right, fighters sense this. Like, they have this aura about them, and you can see when they're on the way down. And it's hard to explain. It might be body language. I don't know if it's body language. I don't know if it's how aggressive they are. I don't know if it's how they warm up. I can't really explain it, but like, I know exactly what you guys are talking about. And you can feel when someone's on their way up and when someone's on their way down.
well, I mean, look at Mike Tyson, right? He always had the early Mike Tyson. You looked at him, and like people say, it's like being in the room with a tiger. You don't know what's gonna happen. He might eat you, or
Yeah.
And man, that's in every sport.
yeah.
If you watch Michael Phelps, if you watch Usain Bolt, you know, before they compete, you can sense something. I've never experienced that in person, but man, I could sense that. And I remember in 2016 Olympics, right? I went to watch in Rio Jordan Bullhouse, right? And man, this guy was the Olympic champion, you know, and there were this Russian dude, man. He was in there, they getting ready to fight each other, and Jordan was the favorite, right? But man, the other guy, he wasn't doing anything. You know, Russians, they just,
Uh,
but man, I could kind of feel his energy, and it was crazy. He just won the fight. You know, like nobody ever. I didn't hear about the guy before the match. You know, and I remember in the finals he cut his face and everything, all messed up, but he still won. You know, so that's every sport, man. If you see like Ayrton Senna and all these people, man, they have something else. It's not just the technique, you know, it's something else, you know. And I think that's what carries you when you're tired, you know, when you're fatigued during training camp. Like I'm my energy is kind of up now because man, now I will be in California, man, losing weight to fight worlds, you know, and it's kind of crazy, man, for me. Like now May, and I'm not training to fight worlds, you know, it's kind of weird. And man, yeah, the energy is everything, man.
How do you train that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think you can. You have like guys like Napoleon Hill would say the burning desire, right? I don't think you train that. I think you create habits, you know, to get better every single day, and you see a big goal, a big task ahead of you, and the adrenaline, you know, the preparation, the sacrifices mixed with adrenaline, and the challenge too, you know, because if you feel that it's too easy, it's not gonna be the same, you know. So when you watch guys like Jacare getting ready to fight Roger, they knew it would be tough, you know. So they would mix everything inside of them, you know, and put the whole. I don't know, man. It's like getting ready to die. You know, if you're going to war, you feel, man, I can die in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, so I'm gonna fight with everything that I can, you know. So I think that's the feeling. I kind of felt I kind of felt that when I was brown belt, you know, but I couldn't feel that yet on the black belt. And I wish my life is to search and try to find that, you know, that fire again, man, because it's so good. It feels so good, man.
yeah, it's hard to say like step one, like how to get like that's what they
Yeah.
say, how to get heart, right? Like, well, there's no step-by-step tutorial because I think it's the process is different. Uh, if we're talking about aura, I think what an aura is a sense of confidence, a sense of belief in yourself and what you're capable and willing to do. Like Ali, what you just said, like you're willing to die when you go in there and fight. That's a belief, and you have a mission that you've put behind it as well. Like you're going out there to fight to the best of your ability and hopefully to get that W. But what motivates everybody is very different, right? Like some people are motivated by fame, some are motivated by challenge, some are motivated by the money, you know. So it's hard to say like what's going to take that person to the next level. And then on top of that is also the belief. Like what gets you to believe in yourself? Some people read books and they get motivated. Some people need to watch other people. Some people need someone to pump them up and, you know, hype them up and have a hype man and get them, you know, my brother, you have to slap him in the face a couple of times before a match and he'll get psyched. So I think everybody's very different. That's what makes it challenging, right? Because if there was a step-by-step process, somebody would be a millionaire already, right? Selling, selling that guy.
And it changes for the same person too.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. Before I had my daughter, it was a whole different kind of motivation, you know. And as soon as she was born, I was another person. As soon as I hold her, man, she looked in my eyes. I was like, oh my God, I didn't expect that, but I became another person. So my motivation, my whole way to think about myself in the world changed. So now you have to refine yourself somewhere, and you don't know where, you know. So the guy, like the Buchecha who fought Rodolfo 10 years ago, is not the same guy, but he's still winning, you know. So that's why it's so beautiful to watch him, because he reinvented himself so many times, man. And that's so beautiful, you know.
But you know, yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about Buchecha. Like I remember the early Buchecha that was winning the first few world titles. It's a different guy.
Yeah.
You can tell. You can tell it's a different guy, even though he's probably better technically and he's heavier, right? Like he's gotten heavy, he's gotten bigger. Still, is just as fast. But there's something about, since the key word of this conversation is the aura, and I think that's an appropriate term, which I get puzzled. I'm going to go to bed tonight thinking about how is it that we know? Because we know.
We
But
know,
what
yeah.
is it that makes
Sure.
us know, you know? But you can sense that there's something different about these guys. And I think it does happen as we get older. I think one thing that might explain that is maturity. I think as you become more mature, you lose some of that recklessness, you know, that anger, like that boldness, you know. Like I interviewed Hobson Gracie for the documentary a couple of years ago, and I every time I spoke to the grandmasters, I asked the grandmasters a question. I go like this: give me some life advice? You know, these men are 90. They're me in the future. They're us in the future. They're jiu-jitsu people, right? And I asked them, give me some life advice? And Hobson Gracie goes like this: while you're young, make sure, look at this, like this. Yeah, live your life, be inconsequential in your life. That's what he said. And I think he's talking about this boldness of it being reckless and not being scared of like dying in there if you have to. Where something happens when you have a daughter, and I know how you feel, Mom, because that's what happened to me. Once you have your kids, you go like, whoa, you're not the most important thing in the world. You can't just die in there anymore. Whereas before you're willing to die in there, now it's like, okay, I got other things I got to worry about. I can't die in there anymore. And your thought process does change. I normally recommend my students don't have kids until they're ready to retire, because to me, I felt that. Like it was a big change. Like my mindset changed dramatically once I had kids. I think that's one factor, not the only one.
And BJ Penn said that too on his book. He said after he had his first daughter, he was never the same fighter. He could never be the bad guy like he used to be, because he used to proud himself of being bad, a bad person. So as soon as he had his first kid, he was like, man, now I need to make this world better for my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, and then he could never be the same guy anymore. So he eventually, of course, he kept fighting and training and everything, but he said he was not the same person. And I'm the same way, man. Like after her, it's weird because I can never explain that for somebody who don't have kids. And if you have kids, I don't have to explain that to you, you know? So it's kind of, it changes, man. It changes. It's funny. It's good. You know, it's life, you know?
It's funny you mentioned, I think I've told this story before, but my brother, before he had his kids, I remember it was a week before his first kid, his daughter Amira. And I went up to him and go, hey, Marcos, you're ready for this? You're excited? He's like, for what? I'm like, oh, you're going to have your kid in 1 week. He's like, it's no big deal. I'm like, no big deal? What are you talking about, man? Kid, he goes, man, that's some loser shit people say that have nothing going on in their life, and the best contribution they have is pumping out a kid. Right? I'm like, bro, I don't know about that, man. Like, even without a religious aspect, just from a scientific level, this is your purpose in life, is to
Yeah.
create life,
Yeah.
and I think your life's gonna change when you see that kid, and it's gonna be. And he's like, that's bullshit, like whatever. But sure enough, a week later, I see him in the delivery room crying. He's like, it hit me, it hit me.
Man,
And
I
I
didn't
guess the best
expect that
way,
too.
yeah, the best way he described it is that he felt the extremes of every emotion possible, from a complete joy and elation to fear and anxiety. Like, because now he's responsible for this small thing that can easily die with bad care. But yeah, he totally changed, and
Man,
I think,
I
yeah.
remember myself being in a room because I had my baby here and my whole family is in Brazil, right? So I was kind of by myself on the hospital. But the same day in the morning, I woke up. I went there. It was delivery day, right? So I went to the hospital. We went to the hospital. We're happy and everything, and I didn't feel much. It was like okay, because a dad is not a dad until he's born.
Yeah.
A mother, as soon as she's pregnant, she's already a mom. And we are not. So I was like, man, maybe I don't have the sensibility, or maybe I'm, too cold hearted and everything. Man, she is supposed to be in the room to take the anesthesia, right? So they go first, and then we stay in another room like I was by myself in the other room waiting, right? Man, next thing I knew, I was crying. 1 minute seems to be an hour. I was like, oh my God, something happened. I called my mom. My mom didn't reply.
Oh God.
Oh man, listen, I was about to die, and I got so mad at the hospital because I didn't have a nurse to myself. She had everything. I didn't have a nurse. I was like, I need a doctor here. I'm dying, And then eventually they invited me to their room. I went there all nervous, everything was all right. And the doctor told me, hey man, you better sit down because I'm not gonna carry your big ass. If you if you pass out, I'm not gonna carry you. You better sit down. I sat down. Man, as soon as I hear that cry, man, the whole thing changed. I was like, I tell my friends, man, I born that day. It wasn't just her, it was me, another me, It's so good, man. It's crazy.
That's great, and I think what you're saying is true. That you were talking about, you have to reinvent yourself, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's true for all the champions in the sport. Like, the moment you stand still and stay where you're at, people are climbing up and they're getting ready to beat you. I think that's one thing that George St. Pierre did well. He never stopped training, you know, and he's always been improving on his skill set and doing things, like you see him now, he does a lot of acrobatic stuff, like in the water and flips, but like he's always improving, and I think that's the thing that's hard to be a champion, is because once you're at the top, a lot of people are satisfied with where they're at. They're like, I made it, this was my goal, and they didn't think beyond that, right? Because becoming the champion is already such a high goal, such a difficult thing to do, that I think most people never even think, well, how many title defenses am I going to have, or what's going to be my legacy besides being just a one-time champ. And
And everything changes, man. Money changed, Like before when I first came to America, I remember, man, I blew my knee for $1,000 tournament. It was $1,000 tournament. I got in the heel hook. I was spinning, spinning, spinning. Got out, won the tournament, $1,000. I thought I was rich, you know. So money changes, man. Then eventually, somebody's gonna tell you, "Hey, man, you're gonna travel to make 1,000." Then you're gonna, I don't know about, and it increases. That's
yeah.
human. And with champions, it's the same thing. Like being a champion is good, okay, and then you have all other responsibilities, and that's why we have to, man, admire these Buchechas, Rogers. No, like Lucas Lepre, man. The guy won his first title, and then he waited 7 years to win again, man.
Yeah, that's hard.
He won his first, came to America, and then he was every single year trying for 7 years. Can you imagine that, man? Now he's Lucas Lepre, and there's a reason why he's Lucas Lepre, and yeah, man, I love history about sports because, man, it's so amazing how people can reinvent themselves, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's not just winning, beating other people, being better or whatever. It's the ability to, man, when something is bad, I go back home and train more and get better. And it's not only the training, it's the mindset too. Because as you say, if they do the same thing that they did 10 years ago, it's not going to work today. So you have to stay ahead, and that's beautiful, man.
Let me ask you something, because I think I was around when you had just moved from Brazil to Maryland, and you were training with Lloyd Irvin. You were a brown belt, I believe, at the time. Is that correct?
When you came here, I don't remember. I think I was, yeah, I think so. I think brown belt, yeah.
Yeah, and I know because I know how Lloyd works in the sense that he always works to educate you just beyond martial arts,
Yes, sir.
and I know you have an amazing following online. You have a huge YouTube channel and Instagram and all that. I just wanted to get your thoughts because unfortunately I don't speak Portuguese. So a lot of those I
Yeah.
miss out on, but I know you have a tremendous following there, and it's a lot of self-help stuff from what I've seen and motivational chats. So like, tell us a little bit about that. What got you started on that?
Okay, so he's great, man. Like Lloyd, he can sense your ability to do something even before you can sense it, even before you can see it. I remember when I first got here, we were in the car going to New York to fight a tournament, right? My English were pretty bad, but I was the best English speaker in the group. Three guys, my English is horrible, but it's better than these guys. So I was the one who he would talk to me all the time. And I kind of told him like what I did in Brazil, how my life, how was it growing up and everything. And I remember, man, I was purple belt. And then he told me, man, you need to write a book. And then I was like, man, this guy is crazy. Write a book? I wouldn't read my own book. Nobody wants to read something like that. That's normal. But I didn't understand the cultural difference. Like that's normal for us in Brazil to have stories like that, but like a lot in a lot of other places, there are different kind of stories. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different, right? So he told me that what 6 years ago, and then I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So I didn't want to hear. So eventually he started saying stuff here and there that would make sense, but he wasn't trying to make me change. He was just planting seeds on my heart, on my mind, for me to think about it. So I think that's the great part about him. And about my things that I do in Brazil was that I always thought that Brazilians shouldn't leave Brazil, you know. And then next thing I knew, I was living here. I was like, man, Brazilians should stay here. If we stay together, we're gonna still dominate. Because my mind was MMA, and I didn't understand why Brazilians came here to teach Americans. I didn't understand the adult life, right? And then I was living here, man. In my mind, I was like, man, I have to help my friends, right? Because they're still there, and I have to make sure that they see and experience what I'm experiencing here. So I started to make videos. And I remember I would have 50 people watching, and I would imagine, oh my God, imagine 50 people here watching, me talking because I wasn't an instructor. So I wasn't used to being, the main attention. And my friends didn't watch my stuff, man. I got I got so sad, but I kept doing it, and eventually became 100, and then 500, and then 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and it's fun, man, and I feel useful, because I could just do stuff in English, would be nice, I would make a little money, but in my mind, I was like, man, I have to help myself 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and that's how it started. Now, um, man, now it's a little different, because I won worlds, I actually got somewhere, but I was kind of, man, I'm here. I don't know what I'm gonna get. I don't know if I'm gonna win this, if I'm gonna fight MMA, if I'm gonna fight jiu-jitsu, but I'm trying to help, and that's what happened. And nowadays, man, I'm doing good over there, and I feel useful. And that's the biggest thing.
What you're saying there speaks very true. I think the fact that you're enjoying what you're doing and you're being genuine, because you're very sincere, and you are exactly as you portray yourself. That I've had the pleasure of training with you and coaching you. I haven't trained with you yet. I think I've only coached you. I think you'll run me in the ground. I train with you because you're one of the people. I think the first guys I saw that, man, this guy looks like the Batman cartoon. The Batman show, like, Jesus Christ. But I think that's awesome that what you've been doing. I think the fact that you stayed speaking to Brazilians, I think that was probably a better thing because they can identify with you more since you're coming from there. And it's probably a segment that's not as targeted, because most of the Americans are only going after American,
But it's good. But it's good now that, like, I watch now with this quarantine things. I watch Cobrinha doing Portuguese content, man. And that made me so happy, because he was the guy he would never speak Portuguese publicly, and some people even think he's American. So in my mind, was kind of good for me that I did all that, and I had some good results that Brazilians now are going back, and they're actually doing both. They're doing hybrid content, and that makes me so happy, and I eventually want to do it in English too. I was actually talking to Lloyd this morning. I'm thinking about so many things, especially now in quarantine. You have more time to think, and I'm like, man, I have to come up with something because now the money difference is so crazy that if you make 1,000 reais, that's like $300. So it's so crazy that
I think it's 200.
Yeah, even less, right? Even less. So it's crazy, 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 and I want to do English, but I want to do a little bit here too now. And I think it's great because everybody now is doing both, and that helps everybody. And we have a lot of talent in Brazil, man. And I think we shouldn't forget that. Of course, now it's harder to get to America with Trump closing the borders for Brazilians and everything, but I hope eventually things get better to normal,
Yeah, how are things? You're still in Maryland right now?
I'm in Virginia. I live in Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
And how is the whole COVID thing there? Are you locked down or?
Man, I today went to the trail. I was doing mountain bike, and it was open.
Oh, nice.
And I think we just reached phase 1, so it's pretty. I wouldn't say good, man. I would
But
say
better.
just it's pretty. Yeah, it's okay.
Better than before.
Yeah,
Better than before.
Yeah, I just got my first haircut in 3 months, I think.
Oh my God, man.
But they
Oh
make
my God.
you wear a mask, They're like, I gotta
my
wear a
God.
mask. I mean, the guy has his hands all over my face, But like, whatever, okay.
No,
Let's play this game.
my guy didn't want me. He wanted me to trim my beard with the mask on. I'm like, no way, you got to mess it up, man. Like, he didn't want to do my beard, man. I'm like, dude, I came here for the beard. But yeah, Mohamed, like you have you've had a very successful career in BJJ, and you did mention MMA. Is that something that's still on the horizon, or how do you feel about that these days?
I don't think so, man. I love watching MMA, but I hate watching when they do crazy stuff like they did with Verdun last weekend, 2 weeks ago. Like he won the match, and it's just a little bit like ADCC. They do whatever they want. And another part about MMA that I don't like, and I think I wouldn't be able to survive for many years doing that, is trash talk, man. Since I train hard, I know you train hard too, so I appreciate you, man, just being there, for me. And to have to promote the fights like that, I don't think that's my thing. Even though I like training MMA better than I like training jiu-jitsu. I love grounding, pounding. Oh my God, I love so many things about MMA, but I don't think that's my thing. Like the money can be better, but it's not gonna be better for most people. And that's something that people get confused to. They think, oh my God, just because you do MMA, you're rich, and that's not true. Yeah. And if you don't fight, you don't make money. And the people who are watching you, they want to watch you compete. They don't want to learn from you.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. In jiu-jitsu, people, even though you can, of course, make money fighting, but people still want to learn from you, and appreciate you. And you can have like a less stressful lifestyle. You know, you and your students, you know, people who admire you, you admire them. So I think it's better, man. Jiu-jitsu is just better in every single aspect, you know.
I
That's
agree.
a that's a good difference you point out too, as far as the spectators, because like you said, jujitsu is a very participant heavy sport. Like the people who watch jujitsu are also training and sometimes competing, but MMA, it's a very small fraction that actually train. You have a lot of guys that are just yelling, "Punch him in the face!"
Oh my God, they drunk, they all drunk, they want to see you dying, you know. Yeah, man, it's different, you know.
Well, I would say you might entertain the possibility of ONE FC because they have
Yeah,
a very different culture, and I like what I'm seeing from
I
them.
like them too. I like them too. I have a couple friends here that fight them, and yeah, man, they big too, man.
They're very big.
They
Yeah,
huge over
it's
there.
yeah, and they're trying to make
Oh
headway here in
my,
the U.S., but they're
oh
the
my
biggest
God,
organization martial arts as far as like the proliferation. I think they had a chart of the most broadcasted sports, and they were in the top. I think they were number 5 or number 6. So I
man.
mean, it's big time, you know. And I do like that, like you said, because that's something that the Asian mixed martial arts world always had, which was respect. You very rarely saw people trash talking. I think besides Rampage, you know, that was about it. Rampage was the one guy that was talking a lot of crap on Pride, you know, and that was his shtick. But everybody else was very respectful. And I
I mean,
think
they will fight. They will fight on the elevators, you know.
no,
But
yeah,
they
they
will
did.
not. They will not fight. They will not talk trash. But they will fight on the elevators, you know. They will fight on the dining room and everything. Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
a it's a cultural difference, right, between the East and West, right? Like in the West, it's a bar fight. It's not a ceremony. Whereas in like I've always felt like Pride is my all time favorite event because in Pride you felt that it's a huge event, but it was also a ceremony. It was two warriors engaging in combat. I never got that feel from the UFC. Whenever I watched UFC,
yeah.
it was more pro wrestling than it was a ceremony to me. It reminded me more of a boxing or a pro wrestling match, which is they're good at selling tickets, but I don't know, man. I like there's something very special about like a room full of people who truly respect the fighters and they're there to watch a form of art, right? Whereas in UFC, I think they just look at it as a bar fight.
And
Yeah. And they want it to be like a bar fight, you know.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They expect something to go wrong, you know. And yeah, man. And if we like, because the samurais, right, in Japan, or the Buddhas, you know, the monkeys, they teach the society how to deal with the hard part, you know. Like now, I tell my friends, man, like if you train jiu-jitsu, man, and there is a fight, everybody's gonna look at you for guidance, you know. And if you freak out, man, come on, you're a fighter. You're supposed to be calm and understand it, you know, and handle the situation. And I think fighters should, especially now with the mainstream attention, we should teach people how to live better, man. Like, man, why
Yes.
would you get out of the car and fight somebody else in the traffic? They could have a gun, you know. They could just beat your ass, you know. Like, please, man, like, understand yourself. Like, try to put a little oxygen in your brain. Breathe, man. You're gonna feel better, you know. And I don't think we do what we're supposed to do when it comes to teaching people the philosophy, you know. And a lot of times you're just trying to sell DVDs, man. Buy my DVD, buy my DVD, man. Man, come on. Let me show you what I learned in 10 years training. It's not just techniques, you know. And I think that's something that we are not doing right, because the immigration. We came to America. We want that money. We want this. We want that. But man, come on, like martial arts, man. We have to. I mean, we don't have to. Nobody has to do anything. But I think we should and we could help people, man. Just man, calm down, man.
You
Everything's
know,
gonna be all right.
it's one thing that you just mentioned. I've been saying this in a lot of the podcasts I've been on about the documentary, because learning about the history of judo and the development of BJJ from judo and so on, it made me notice one thing I had never paid attention to. I had never realized that, and you just kind of touched on it a little bit. Is that BJJ as an art lacks a philosophical cornerstone? We don't have it. Our philosophy is surf culture. It's what I call the Hakuna Matata culture. It's like flip flops, board shorts, acai after practice, and it's something very endearing. Like it is fun, but like we don't have that philosophical, that Confucian cornerstone that is so present in Japanese society. The respect, the hierarchy, the honor. Honor is such an important word in the Japanese vocabulary. You don't hear it in the Western vocabulary. You don't hear it in Portuguese. Like no one even uses the word. Like you know what the word means, but it doesn't come up in conversation because it's not something important to people. And like BJJ is very deficient in that regard. Like we don't have that, right? And I wonder how cohesive the art of BJJ will be in the next 50, 100 years because we don't have that. Whereas judo, I think I think it's going to be around forever.
And the culture is that I didn't learn that, I create that in jiu-jitsu. And if you create it, there is no history. You like, I believe that every master has a master. You know, every master has a master. So in order in sports or even yoga, man, if you go to yoga, they always going to respect the yogis, right? The old guys and everything. And in meditation, you're going to have somebody. So in jiu-jitsu, we kind of want to create something so we can sell more DVDs. We can make more seminars, you know? And it's cool. It's fun. Like everybody got to survive. But I think, man, every time you say, man, I learned this from the source, you know, there is a source, and I went there and learned from the source. And I'm very grateful for that. And that creates to students, oh my God, so now you're passing the source for me. You went there, you learned, now you're passing. Now I have the responsibility to pass to my students too. You know, so there's a whole different mentality. It's not gonna make you poor, man. You can still sell DVDs like that, you know, because you have the information from the source. If you watch guys like Valentes brothers, you know, that's all they say. You know, if you agree or not is other thing, but they say, man, I learned from Helio Gracie, and you should be able to defend yourself in a street fight or whatever they say. And they kind of doing this. We have the source, and that's the source. I'm giving you the information from the source. And I think that's very important, man. That's why I admire these guys. I watch them. I want to go there and learn from them a little bit because, yeah, I think we don't have that as much, you know?
I think a lot of people feel that if they give credit to somebody else for something they learned, then it takes away from them, right? Because they like feeling like, I'm the guru. I'm the guy that was a genius and I put everything together and you need to come to me for everything, you know, versus...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And you know, what you say is true. Like there's very few people that created an initial idea by themselves, and those are what I would consider true geniuses. These are people.
And even if you did, you had to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So everywhere you look, there is somebody else's hard work to help you.
Yes.
On the iPhone, on the computer, on the cars, on the streets, you know, on the houses, man. Everything you look around is somebody else's effort. You know, so we have to understand that and be grateful, man. You know, even the sun and everything else, you know, the trees, the other animals, the nature, you know, everything come to make sure your life was possible. You know, if you're here, you have to thank somebody. You know, so in a lot of times we don't think about that. That's why sometimes we get depressed, man, because we don't see the meaning of we are kids and then eventually we become parents, and that's life, man. You know, we're not here forever.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I think that you just touched on something that people miss out on, but I think that the main point there is that you can see an evolution in yourself from a competitor to becoming someone that acknowledges that to become a complete martial artist, you have to have a far deeper understanding of people, nature, and life. And it's part of the evolution. Like sometimes, because I feel like about martial arts the same way you do. Like I do feel that I'm in a moment in my life where I can appreciate other things as part of the journey. And it's not just about the metal and the technique. But if I heard myself when I was 20 years old talking like this, I'd be ashamed of myself. I'd be like, shut the fuck up, old man. You sound like, it sounds like nonsense, but because when you're young, you're arrogant, and the only thing that matters is victory, right? But it does say something about the evolution of yourself as a person and as a competitor, and I think it's a natural process. Like you go through these stages, and And the word I use is improvement or evolution. Like there's no way out of it. Like it's not, I would have seen it 20 years ago as differently. But what also reminds me that to try to tell this to a 20-year-old is kind of a waste of your breath because they're not going to understand you. So I don't waste, like I'll give you the message, but they don't want to hear it. They think you're crazy and they don't see they're not ready for it. Like there's certain things that you're not ready for in life. So I think it's really cool to leave the message out there, but don't waste your breath on people that don't want to hear it, man, because some people just aren't at the right place in their life.
100%, 100%. And what we have to sell, I think sometimes, is happiness.
Yeah.
You know, because if we try to sell money, like, hey man, do this and you're gonna be a millionaire, and people think they believe they're gonna be eventually happy when they get that money, and they're gonna work hard, they're gonna get there, and then okay, now what? Because they didn't think about getting it, and eventually they're gonna get. If you're smart, if you work hard, if you plant the seeds, if you have the mentors and everything, you're gonna get. But you're not ready to be happy sometimes. And that was me. That was myself with winning worlds. I won worlds, and then I felt empty for some reason. And I was like, man, why did I miss? Because I worked for this 10 years, man. And then I got here and I should be super happy. Something magical supposed to be happening right now. And it's not. And then I noticed that, man, happiness is not that. Like happiness is the journey, man. It's wake up like today. I didn't have jiu-jitsu. I don't have money right now, but I did the trails. I see the nature. I breathe. Oh my God, I'm feeling great. And sometimes you have money, you have everything, and you feel empty. You feel miserable for sometimes. And I think I'm not like when I talk to people, I'm not trying to tell them I'm right, you're wrong, because that's what I think most jiu-jitsu guys do. I don't know if it's a self-esteem kind of deal, but I feel that people say, man, I'm the champion, you are nothing, shut up and listen to what I'm saying. And that's good because, of course, you know a lot. By going through the hard work and everything, you learn a lot of things. But that doesn't make you God or something, And if you tell people that, man, you don't have to be here with the medal to be happy. You can be happy right there where you are, and if you I know it's hard to make people understand that, but if somebody understands that, man, that person eventually is going to be the one millionaire, the one winning worlds and everything, because they're going to just appreciate the time that they have, available for them. And yeah, man, I try to tell that to people, man, just relax, a little bit. Relax. I know it's hard. Everybody's broke right now. Do you think it's just you? Do you think that's only your problem? Everybody's broke right now, man. But you have time. You last year you complained that you didn't have time. Now you have it. You know.
Yeah. Everybody has lots of time right now. And what you're saying, I think it's something that hopefully it sinks into everybody's head, because you are right. There's many millionaires and Hollywood celebrities that are miserable, and they have all the power and fame of the world, and it doesn't fill that void, right?
Yeah, I'm not telling you to be broke.
Yeah.
Please don't be broke. Don't be broke. Don't lose all tournaments. You have to win tournaments. You have to make money. But that's not the only thing you have to be looking for,
Yeah, and I think that is what people should carry away from the martial arts, is learning how to be fulfilled or enlightened just by your own effort. And I feel like combat is a great way of knowing yourself and
Oh
learning
my God.
of somebody else
There's no
too.
better way.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if
When it's hard, breathe. Breathe. When
yeah,
it's easy, enjoy. But you have to understand it's gonna get hard eventually. And when it's hard, you have to understand it's gonna get good eventually too. So you have to understand the two extremes, right? Every single minute in jiu-jitsu or in fighting or doing yoga or whatever. You're gonna face the extremes more frequently than somebody who don't do much. And then as soon as they have a little problem, they're gonna freak out because they're gonna think this is the end of the world, but it's not.
yeah, I think that's what's important about the martial arts, because it puts you in front of dangerous situations very often, right? And most people, like you said, don't. And they're like, oh, I got my homeworks late, oh, and they're freaking out. It's like, that homework means nothing. It's a game, right? When you're fighting someone and trying to save your life by, by defending yourself, that is the most important thing, to protecting your health. So
Yep.
for me, the martial arts puts things in perspective of what's important and what's not. And like, to me, the most important thing is your health, because without your health, you can't appreciate anything, right? You could have all the riches of the world, you could have great family, but if you're dead, you can't enjoy them and you can't, help them. So like you have to take care of yourself and your health. And I think it's not just physical, but it's also mental and being available. So the chase for the medals, the chase for the money and for fame, these are all fun games to play, but they're not to me, they're not the purpose.
Now,
Right?
that's not life. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not life.
Like you
That's
said,
something.
yeah. To me, like you said, the purpose is happiness, and that's different things for different people. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to loving something, whether it's your family or whatever it is, your passion in your life.
And
But it
being
doesn't.
grateful, man. Being grateful. You should not worry about the money that you don't have. If you don't have that money, that's cool. Learn how to make money. But don't be worried about the money that you don't have.
You know what it is? It's we in modern society we've created. Perhaps this has always been the case, but now I think more than ever, we've created a number of hierarchies. And it goes popularity, money, and I think that to discount these things, it's to discount being human. There's a reason why you want money. There's a reason why you enjoy popularity. There's a reason why you have vanity. It's part of being human, right? But like I think the problem is not so much that we have these feelings. The problem is that the hierarchy it's off. The hierarchy ought to be well-being. It ought to be helping others. It ought to be love. It ought to be being a better human being, being a better coach. And I think at some point in that hierarchy, you're going to throw money in there. You need the money. It's fine to
Yeah,
want
sure.
nice things. There's nothing wrong with wanting a nice house and a nice
Sure.
car. But if that's what you go to bed thinking about every night, I have a hard time admiring anyone like that. Like when I look at like people that are just all about the money and the grind and making it happen and 12 hours a day just for the money, I have a really hard time admiring those people because I don't see anything in their behavior that makes me want to be like them. Like I could see sometimes it's like it's the coach that's teaching like the kids in the favelas in Rio. I admire those guys more than I do the billionaires sometimes because I feel like they're actually doing more for the world in some ways. And I think that that's the real problem. It's that we have lost track of that there is a hierarchy, and it is a good one. No, right now we got it sort of flipped upside down. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and just like you were saying, like right now, money is the currency of power, right? And that's everybody wants to be powerful in some way, but that's just something that we've agreed to. It's not like a universal law. Like there's tribes out there in the middle of nowhere that have never heard of money or internet, and they have people that are very happy with their lives and fulfilled, and they've never heard of all these structures that we've created, right? Like, oh, I have to be like the smartest guy, or I have to be like that. Doesn't exist for them. Their existence might be more simple. It's just about survival, about putting food on the table and coming into their community, and that's it. But they have a different meaning of what power is, right? For them, power might be like I am the chieftain of my tribe, or I have access to this. But right now, we have made it money here in the modern world, and less people have it. And so it makes people frustrated, right? Because they're like, I'm supposed to have the money to be considered good, but I don't have it, and I don't know how to get it. And if you look at, like, it's funny, Ali, you were mentioning it, but like, if you were trying to sell guides on spiritual enlightenment or whatnot, you would do far less well than if you were telling people how to get money. Like that, one of the best sectors in business, like on info products, is telling people how to make money. Essentially telling people how I'm making money off of you by buying my product.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say.
You know what I mean? But like, I mean, and there's a place for that. Of course, like if you follow it and you make money, that's great. But like you said, I think the more important thing is about learning how to be happy with yourself, right? And those are things that more people like shy away from, right? Like if you were going to do a seminar, like if Ali got out there and said, I'm going to teach a seminar on how to be a better version of yourself, at least what I know about it. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. Versus, Ali, I'm going to show you how to slam people on their head using Haragoshi. you know, in the jiu-jitsu circle, everybody wants to go to the Haragoshi seminar, right? Then they're not going to go. And it sucks that that's the way it is, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think, man, a lot of times we're just trying to be useful. You know, we want to feel useful. We want to feel attractive. You know, we want to feel, oh my God, I want to like myself, so somebody else can like myself too, can like me. You know, so a lot of times, man, you just have to understand, and that's self knowledge, right? You mentioned that before. The more you train, the more you know yourself, the more you know how you react on hard times or easy times, and then you don't freak out anymore. And that's maturity, that's evolution. What, like, man, I don't know. Like, it's great. Like, I want to be great. You know, I want to make a lot of money. I want to do well. But in the other hand, like we say in Portuguese, I don't want to sell my soul for it. You know, and a lot of people don't know the limit that they should go for. You know, and that's when they train so hard, they overtrain. You know, and that's us. We all do that. You know, in certain levels. Like sometimes I train too much, and then next day I can't train. It's like, man, I just, my ambition to be good made me go over my limit. You know, so that's something. That's a lifetime task, man. As soon as you learn, you're not supposed to be here anymore. You know, so that's why it's so funny to live and enjoy and approach everything.
Yeah, I think that's
Very good point.
a great message there. Uh, Ali, you have anything else that you want to tell our audience and let people know about?
No, man, it was great. It was great to talk about everything but jiu-jitsu, right? We didn't talk about jiu-jitsu, but we talk about jiu-jitsu because that's jiu-jitsu.
It's jujitsu on a deeper level. It's the
Yeah,
core of
this
jujitsu. It's
is
a deeper
this
layer. And that's what
this is go ahead.
that's what when me and Dave we started this, we always say like we wanted to talk about jujitsu on a deeper level. That just not just about what's your favorite sweep, what's your favorite choke. You know, like there's got to be more important things to be said and known for the audience than just your favorite technique. So, I think that this podcast has been a good representation of what we strive to do.
And actually that's what we do every single day. You know, as soon as we stand in front of the students, we're not just giving them techniques, we're giving energy. You know, we're showing that besides everything is bad, we don't have no money or whatever, or we have family problems too, we have we have every kind of problems too, but we're here for you. You know, I'm here with smile on my face, trying to make your day feel a little better, because of the 2 hours I'm giving you or you giving me. I don't know. We're changing energy. We're creating a healthy environment for everybody, for the world. And I think that's our responsibility, man.
Yes, very nice. Awesome. Mohammed, where can people find you online? Your YouTube, Instagram?
Oh, okay. I have an English YouTube, man, but I don't usually upload that much. But it's
Okay.
called One Way Jiu Jitsu. And my Instagram is at ALYBJJ. And basically that's it, man. That's what I do on YouTube and Instagram.
And do you have any DVDs you're gonna get ready to?
Man, I wanna do something to teach people how to throw other people, or at least to survive. Because I had a guy, man. He would fly from London to here just to do grip fighting with me because they all start from their knees in his gym, and he wanted to compete. And I understand that's a problem, man. A lot of people they wants to compete, but they start rolling on their knees, and now they're not really trying to throw anybody, but they just want to survive and don't freak out in 30 seconds. So I kind of want to do something like that, but I don't have a date yet.
All right. Well, when that comes around, you'll have to let us know because you're
Cool,
definitely
man.
one of the better throwers in the game.
Cool,
Awesome, Mohammed.
man.
Thank you very much for your time. All right. And for our listeners, we'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.
All
Thank
right,
you very
thanks, guys.
much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Have a good
I
one.
see
Thank
you.
you.